What's up guys, MaksWerks here, and today we are doing an unboxing and review of my $200 Chinese plasma cutter. So this is the package basically as it arrived to me. It had some straps on it, it was all taped up. I've cut it up. I'm going to set it on the ground here and change the camera angle for a minute. But I would like to point out that there is a notice here that says forbidden throwing unit, which I think means that you shouldn't throw the unit, which is good. It's a good start. So I'm going to put this on the ground and pull it apart. Alright, so now that we got this baby on the ground, I should point out it's not very heavy. So inside of our main box, we have a second box with some nice foam padding in that first box. We have a box here labeled pneumatic unit, which I imagine is good. It is our little air regulator that's going to go on the back, and it actually feels like a pretty solid unit, probably similar to the kind of thing that you would you'd buy at Harbor Freight. I mean, it's got plugs in all the holes, which is nice. It's stamped AFR 2000 for those who care, and it comes with this mounting bracket which slips under this red ring, lets you mount it to the back of the unit. So we're going to set it on the side for a moment, and let's pull out the unit itself. It's got a nice grab handle on the top, and so foam, more foam, little plastic. This is our unit, our CUT50D. And I'm going to go more in depth, but let's see. So nice yellow paint. It's got kind of that baked on paint finish. Mine's got a little chip up here on the front, but nothing major. I don't see any damage. You got a cord on the back. It comes with no plug, 2 stripped wires and 1 clipped one. So we're going to have to put a plug on it. It comes with a gas inline fitting, a ground. And so we'll go more into this. It smells quite chemically, so we're going to set this up here on our workbench. Now let's see what else comes in the box. I got a CUT50D user manual. I haven't obviously read this. It's probably in Chinglish. I got a small package of consumables and air fittings. And let's see. Let's grab this. So we have a ground, what looks like a standard DIM plug. It's not very long, as you can see. This is maybe 4 feet, but the ground clamp's got a nice spring to it. It's got nice nice copper teeth, nice copper strap, lots of surface area, so it probably works pretty well. So we're going to set this over here on our workbench as well for a moment. And this is the torch. It's got a nice maybe denim wrapper around it. Keep things from burning and damaging your cord. Let's see, I am 6 feet tall, so this cord is probably about 8 feet tall because I can just stretch out my hand for it. As you can see, it's a standard plasma cutting torch. You got a push button right here. On the other side of our denim sheath, we have our control connection, and then our electricity and compressed air connection. And all in all, initial feel coming out of the box, this actually feels quite nice. But we'll check it out here in a minute. And it comes with 2 pieces of soft air hose to get our regulator set up. So that's everything that comes in the box. So now we can start getting our plasma cutter all set up here on the workbench. Let me clear out a few things, and we'll come over here and get her all wired up. Alright, so here on the back of our plasma cutter, you can see the wires were sort of pre-stripped. This one looks like it was maybe cut apart by a knife or something. So we're gonna tape that up a little bit. I picked this up from my local Lowe's. I put in a 240 plug a while back. You guys saw the video. This is a Leviton 3050 amp dual power plug. And it's kind of one of these universal jobs where you can basically put in the pieces however you want, and then it just bolts together. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that here real quick. So in this part of the video, you can see me putting on the plug. This is the correct plug. It's a NEMA
CUT50D or something like that. So the problem is, though, as I found out later, the plug that I have in my wall is not correct. So I ended up brute forcing it to do this video and show you guys. But by the time that you're watching this, I'll have replaced the wall plug with the correct unit so that it'll work with the plasma and with the welder. Installing the plug isn't a big deal. I found, so despite the mixed instructions, I found that the green wire was actually the ground. And so you want to put that to ground, and the yellow-green is one of the positive terminals. If I had to do this all again, I would use the same plug, but I would buy one of the extension cables that comes for like a dryer and basically solder it together, because the power lead on this is really small. Hopefully I'll find a different way of dealing with that here in the future, maybe an extension cable or something, but it was kind of a pain in the butt to do. So just make sure you wire it all correctly, and make sure that you have your 230 on a separate breaker, so that if something does pop, you won't take down your entire house and possibly electrocute yourself or burn yourself. Again, if you're not comfortable doing this kind of stuff, you really should buy one of the pre-assembled units, or have an electrician put this together for you.
So our display indicator changes from 0 amps to 50 amps. So we're going to unplug it and hook up the gas.
Again, so here we're putting together the regulator for the air, and so you have 2 bolts on the back of the machine and 4 nuts on them. So you basically take off all 4 nuts, put the regulator on there, and use 2 nuts to hold it down and 2 more to secure, basically lock out those nuts. What I did was, on one side of the regulator, I put a quick connect that goes to my air compressor quick connect, and on the other side I put the regular barb, and then I use their hose to run it down from the barb to the gas inlet. That orange hose that sticks out of the back of the machine actually goes into the regulator slot, and there's a special little pinch connection that comes with it, and that actually shows the air pressure on the front of the machine. All in all, this is a really kind of a cheap part of this, and I'll probably be replacing this with a digital unit pretty soon, and the hose that comes with it requires a lot of torque to get it to seal shut properly. So all in all, not really the brightest part of this entire project.
So this is how we have this configured. This will basically allow me to use a quick connect for my compressor, and this line is just going to jumper down here to the gas inlet. So now we can just stick this on here. There's 2 nuts. So there we go. So now we can install this little rubber air line. So one final thing, if you want to use the pressure gauge on the front of this machine, you have to install this little guy right here, and it's basically a compression fitting with this little orange tube. And so now, no more air leaks. We have it set. We're actually going to bump this up a little bit, about 80 psi, and then push down to lock it. And so now we can actually attach our various implements. So our ground clamp, which uses a standard DISM plug, plugs in here, twist lock, boom, ground is in. Our, where is it? Our cable, this part right here screws on. There's a fitting. So I'm gonna move this piece of it. This fitting screws on, just standard pipe. Looks like it's going to be probably 19. Yeah. So 19, and then our 2-prong on and off switch goes here. And what we can do is now, if we hit this, it's not a real sharp cutoff, and you can see pressure drop and holds at about 60 psi. So if we pop this up and up it to about 90, looks like with this device we're limited by the flow of air through this, or maybe it's just this thing, but it's going to hold at about 60. So before we start, there's a couple of things I want to say. First of all, I paid $210 shipped for this unit. It's just a generic CUT50 off eBay. Harbor Freight and Eastwood are both happy to sell you the exact same product with their name on it for almost $600. Lotus, which is another known brand, and I'm putting pictures of all of this up for you, will sell you the same thing for about $400. I just went ahead and got the cheapo eBay one, because for $200 for a plasma cutter that'll cut through pretty much anything, that's a hell of a steal in my opinion. So, one major note, safety. Cutting things with plasma cutting things is compressed air blowing superheated metal out, which means you want to wear real shoes. You'll notice I put some shoes on. I have these nice Black Stallion welding gloves that I'm going to be using. And of course, darkened protective glasses. Generally, we're doing what's called drag cutting, where you take the tip and you put it on a piece of metal and you drag. Now, most of the arc is going to be in the piece of metal or on the other side of it. So we're not really as concerned about light as we are with welding. I have seen people use welding helmets to plasma cut. There's nothing wrong with an added bit of safety or a face shield. But I don't have those things with me right now, so I'm not going to be using them. We are basically going to start cutting. I made a trip special to the metal supply place for you guys today. And I got a whole bunch of stuff, aluminum, steel, nice mix. The other thing is, I'm working on a wooden bench, which is not really ideal for plasma cutting. So I got this as part of my scrap metal pile. It is a 7-inch piece of C-channel, and I can rest things on top of here and then cut through them without damaging the wood underneath. So we're going to cut a few different things. I'm going to kind of show you guys how to plasma cut. I'm a noob at this. I've used one of these machines. I've used a professional machine before on several occasions. But I don't really have a whole lot of experience. You guys are learning with me, and this is kind of a noob review. So we're going to go ahead and power this bad boy up. We're going to go ahead and turn it all the way up to its highest setting, because why the fuck not? We got air going. And so we are going to start with the most basic thing, a little scrap pile here. This is 22 gauge or 1/32 inch steel left over from some project. And we're just going to see how this baby goes through it. Now, one of the downsides of this already is that this ground cable is really short. However, it is a standard DISM plug, so if you're like a welder or you have other DISM equipment, you can use a much longer lead. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my safety glasses, bring you guys over here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And so we're going to put on our nice gloves here from Black Stallion. Hardly broken in even. I haven't gotten my welder in yet, so I haven't set it all up. But now we're just going to take the tip of this torch, we're going to set it down on this steel, and we're going to see if we can make a cut. And there you go, you guys saw it. Apparently I missed a piece, but that was me because I started in the middle of the piece. But you can see at 22 gauge, it went through it like butter. This is just, real thin steel. Went right through it. So let me try another piece just to show you guys here. So one of the other things I want to talk about is this is the cut on the 22 gauge, and it is basically perfect. You can see a little bit of slagginess, but it's really not too bad. Sorry. The other thing is it uses quite a bit of air, so the compressor kicks on and off. So this is a piece of 5/64 tube steel, and so we're going to see, now that we moved up to something that's at least a little bit thicker than just sheet metal, let's see how well this thing does. So let me finish cutting this out, and I'll show you guys the edges on our 5/64 piece. Again, with the 5/64, ooh, this is real hot. You can see that it's just burning right through that metal without any sort of hint of slowing down. So there's a little bit more slagginess on this backside, but this is still, you know, I would say very clean. So let's set this aside in our junk pile.
So the 1/8 inch steel cut just fine. The issue was really that I couldn't line it up straight. I was having some issue keeping my hand steady up in the air. But this torch goes through 1/8 inch steel without too much of a problem. It does leave a little bit more slag behind, but it's still pretty reasonable.
So there is our, what was this, 1/8. Again, a lot of this is going to be skill, and I don't have very much of it. I don't have a lot of experience. You guys are watching me unbox this, but it cut through it just fine. So put this in our discard pile. Here is aluminum, 1/8 inch thick aluminum. And so let's see how the plasma cutter does with this.
Again, with the 1/8 inch aluminum, I was having trouble getting all my cuts straight. This is just a skill thing, but it went through the 1/8 inch aluminum just fine.
So the 1/8 inch aluminum was kind of slaggy. Again, I am by no means a professional, and this is my first time using this, and I can already tell you there's a few things I'm going to change. But this is some 3/8 inch rod, and it's both 3/8 and half. It's a rectangle, so we're going to see how well.
So cutting through the aluminum, 1/4 inch aluminum, was a little bit harder than I thought. I think by this point I was starting to hit the duty cycle of the machine as well. It's got a 60% duty cycle. So part of it is skill, part of it is duty cycle, part of it is I probably wasn't doing it quite right. But I was getting showered with a lot of sparks, which meant I was probably dragging a little too fast, trying to get a little bit too deep of a cut. So as I continue to practice and work with this, I'm sure I can cut 1/4 and 3/8 inch material, which is what this thing is rated for.
So that basically concludes my little demonstration. A couple of things that I'd like to point out. First of all, the thin sheet metal up to about 1/4 inch for steel, she went through pretty well. I think some of it is my technique. I'm going to watch some more videos. However, based on my experience, I don't think we're actually getting 50 amps out of this thing. I'd love to put a meter on it and see how much we were actually pulling, but it doesn't quite feel like 50 amps. However, for a cheap $200 plasma cutter that's going to cut through pipe and sheet and square tube and stuff like that, I think this does really, really well. So let's take a look at, kind of turn this thing off and take a look at the consumables that are kind of left over at this point. So the first cup broke. However, I think that's because it's shipped just kind of open. It's not really protected by anything, and so I think I actually chipped it on something open out of the box. So we're going to discount that because I think it's just garbage. So if you take off this cap, The second one I used, you can see it's in pretty good shape. It's got some metal deposit on it, but it's not too bad. Inside there's a little metal cap. And again, some metal deposit, not too bad. There's a little spacer ring. And all the magic happens right here. This is the electrode. And it's actually double-sided, and the electrode is starting to get consumed a little bit, but it's really not too bad. So we can comfortably reassemble this and keep using it. The other thing about this is that parts are really cheap. For about 20 bucks you can get like 24, I think, complete sets, which is what I did. I also bought that stuff from a separate eBay seller. O-ring on there to seal the air in. But all in all, it's a pretty solid product. I'm gonna have to basically figure out the air leaks. There's probably a better way of getting those hoses clamped down. Also, that regulator is kind of shit. But again, for 200 bucks, there's not really a whole lot you can ask for. I think that it will serve my fabrication purposes really well, especially with the welder coming in next week. I already have a chop saw. This doesn't really replace a chop saw for me. I feel like this is really good for cutting out smaller things. You know, I guess the bottom line is, you know, is this a Hypertherm 45? No, it's not. But it costs $200 instead of $1,700. So there is something to be said for value for money. And I think in terms of buying a plasma cutter for $200, this little puppy is pretty good. She only weighs about 10 or 12 pounds and is maybe 16 inches by 10 inches by 5 or 6 inches. So it's pretty compact, it fits where it needs to go. I think the ground clamp's a little short, but again, it's a standard DISM plug, so you can swap it out with something better. I think the torch lead is plenty long for plasma cutting. And that's pretty much it. All in all, I'm pretty happy. I'm going to make a few adjustments, a few modifications. I'm going to see what people say on the forums and see if there's some mods. And if there are, I'll obviously make further videos showing what they are and how to do them and so on and so forth. But it looks like I'm going to need to get a different plug, either from my wall or most likely from my wall. I'm going to have to get a different plug from my wall. But it works. I'm pretty happy with it, and I think this is the first real review of one of these Chinese plasma cutters. If you like the video, please subscribe. Let me know in the comments, and there'll be more cool metalworking stuff coming soon. Thanks, guys.